Hello, everyone. Just a quick intermission before we start the episode. This is the episode that I had pre-recorded before my mom passed away. So this is an older episode and it's not really necessary for me to address anything really, but just wanted to say that if I mention anything that is like before the holidays, you'll see my tree if you're watching on YouTube, but also if I have no mention of anything when it comes to my mental health or whatever, just know that this was pre-recorded. It's still a great episode. I wanted to get it out. It's going to be very helpful for a lot of you guys, but just know that this was a previous episode. So let's get into it. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another podcast episode. My name is Alicia Gogan, the host of the Globe Seekers podcast, where I help you expand your mind and become more self-aware so that you can glow up into the best version of yourself. Happy Sunday. If you're listening to this on a Sunday, I hope you guys have been doing really well. I have been doing really well. Thank you guys for all of the love and support when it comes to just sending me well wishes with my health and everything. And I hope you guys are feeling good during this season as well. And if you're not, then maybe this episode will help. So let's talk today about how to feel at peace with being alone and doing things alone, and really just feeling at peace with your life, living a life that you enjoy. Now, I saw a quote on Pinterest, which I shared on my Instagram. As you guys know, if you follow me, and if you don't, definitely follow me, Alicia Gogan, along with the podcast, the Globe Seekers podcast. And the quote goes, "My alone feels so good. I'll only have you if you're sweeter than my solitude." And when I read that quote, I was like, yes, this is the energy that I am in. This is the mindset that I have. This is the way that I move through life now in my late 20s, the 29th year of my life. I just feel so at peace with myself and my life, my solitude. And I want to talk about some of the things that have allowed me to have that mindset, that have allowed me to feel at peace to the point where no person, place, or thing is going to come into my life and disrupt my peace unless they're sweeter than that. And you know, the bar is a little bit high here. So if you're currently struggling with adopting this mindset and living this life, hopefully this episode can help you raise that bar a little bit more. So I kind of want to talk about two main topics in this video. I first kind of want to talk about the transition that sometimes we didn't get in childhood and into adulthood life, that sometimes does not set us up for being somebody who believes that they can be independent and go out into the world and not have so much anxiety, and to have confidence within yourself to be able to go out in the world without being dependent on other people or second guessing yourself. But also on the flip side, really embracing the solitude of your own life and really being comfortable with coming back to your own life and no longer running away from your life. So I think for most people, there's always a point in your life where you realize, oh, I have anxiety, or I am nervous to go into social situations or to do things myself or to do something for the first time. Like there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of self-doubt, there's a lot of feeling unready. And something that I really learned on my journey was a lot of the times we don't get a healthy transition from things that we used to do and were dependent on when it comes to parents or people who might have been older or wiser or, you know, took the reins with things, into adulthood life where it is now our responsibility to be able to go into the world and do it ourselves. Sometimes we get pushed into doing things quicker than we're ready for. Sometimes we're not equipped with the right tools and techniques or belief within ourselves to be able to go out into the world and be independent. And so it's almost no wonder sometimes we have so much anxiety. We don't trust ourselves. We are afraid to go do that thing for the first time or even multiple times, because it really just tracks in our nervous systems as that same uncomfortable feeling of not being ready when we first maybe had to do that transition in childhood moving into adulthood life. And I'm going to give you a few little memories that I have to help you understand what I am trying to say. In an ideal world, we would have parents, caregivers, people around us, whether that is friends, even teachers, whatever, right? To really create an environment where we feel safe enough to take the step outside of our comfort zones. Maybe they're speaking words of affirmation into us. Maybe they're almost like holding our hands through the process. They're really preparing us for life, for us to go out into the world. But when you come from a lifestyle or parents that didn't really know how to walk you through the steps, or they didn't have time or energy, or they didn't want to give it to you, or they were kind of like discombobulated themselves when it comes to their own nervous systems, and, you know, not being able to really be that parent that you might have needed or that caregiver that you needed. When it comes time for you to transition into doing something on an independent level, it's not necessarily the best experience, and you tend to want to avoid that feeling again. So I'll give you an example. My half siblings, they used to have an in-ground pool. And so I would go over to their place and I would want to swim with my half sister and brother. And it was fun times. It was so fun. But you guys know I had a dad who was very strict, very like, you have to follow the rules, very dominant. You know, like there was no room for me talking back, not even that I would talk back, but he just didn't create an environment where it was very nourishing for a child to express emotions and feel her emotions. And when I needed some nurturing and love and support into something transitional in my life, it just wasn't given to me. It just wasn't, especially from him. So I distinctly remember a memory where I really wanted to dive off the diving board. And I'm sure you guys can like remember if you've ever tried to dive off of a diving board into a pool. The first time when you want to do it, like you feel like you're scared. It's a normal thing. Like you've never done it before. The feeling of like wanting to jump into it and not knowing if your body's going to like get into the water or how that's going to feel. It is a really weird feeling. And so there's a lot of like, oh, stopping and starting, like, oh, I don't want to do it, this, that. Now, in a perfect world, and I'm saying in a perfect world because we can blame our parents like all day for how they screwed up or they didn't do it right. But at the end of the day, like, you know, who is to say how it should have been done or how a parent should have really walked you through those steps? There's a million ways to do it, and every single person is different, right? Every child is different. Maybe one child needs a little bit more hand holding. Maybe another one wants to do it a little bit faster and quicker. It really depends. For me, I was really, really nervous, and I definitely needed a little bit more affirmation. I needed a little bit more nurturing and a little bit more like understanding of what was even happening in that situation for me to like feel confident within myself to be able to dive. But that unfortunately is not what I got. What I got was yelling. He was yelling at me a lot because I was like hesitating to get into the pool, and he was like, just do it, just do it, just do it, you know, like very like a Jamaican dad. Not all Jamaicans are like this, of course, but I'm sure if you know, if you have a Jamaican dad, it was just very like, hurry up and get it done, da 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 da. And, you know, that's his understanding of how things should be. But unfortunately, that's not what I needed at that point. And quite frankly, if my mom was there, she would have done it differently, and I probably wouldn't have had that memory be so ingrained into my mind and my nervous system. But anyways, it was very rushing energy, okay? Very rushing, very feeling not ready. And then it created more anxiety within me because like he's like giving me anxiety, and I wasn't able to really process what was happening. So that was the environment in which he was creating for me, and I was creating for myself, and all of this anxiety. And then it got to a point where he just pushed me in. And then I cried, and I also didn't dive and like didn't actually learn how to dive properly. And it was just a mess. Okay. So that was pretty traumatic for me. Okay. And it wasn't necessarily the healthiest transition that I could have experienced doing something for the first time, like diving. Now, children are very resilient. I was resilient. I ended up learning how to dive, but it did stick with me every single time I wanted to dive, and I definitely didn't want to dive around him. And so it created kind of this distrust within myself, distrust within the water and the diving and the whole situation, to the point where I avoided it a lot. I second guessed it a lot until, of course, I ended up learning how to dive and like trusting myself and things like that. But the reason why I'm saying that is because in your adulthood life, there are gonna be things where you have to do for the first time, or maybe even similar. I mean, obviously now when I'm diving, if I ever go dive, I have overcome kind of that trauma in a way. And that's a small trauma. It's not like a big T trauma, but it is technically like a trauma. So let's say I want to go out and I want to go to an event, but I'm feeling like nervous because I've never done it before, or I don't know who's going to be there, or I don't have a good self-concept, or I don't have a good self-talk going on in my mind, or I don't have friends or family or whatever that is supporting me on this journey of doing something for the first time. Yeah, I'm going to feel this same energy of like rushing and not feeling ready. And then of course I don't want to do these things alone. And then I'm looking for ways in which that I can be dependent on someone else, or I can get out of it, or I can whatever. Okay, quick intermission. If you're watching on YouTube, I have a tea now, and that's because my computer was not charging, but I think we're all good. So anyways, let me get back to what I was talking about. So that's obviously one example of me not really being prepared into transition into independence. And obviously there's like so many other things, right? Lessons and things you're going to have to learn as you move into adulthood that maybe you're just not primed for. And it doesn't need to be your parents not doing the best, or sometimes they do the best and you still for some reason like don't have that confidence within yourself, because at the end of the day also doing something for the first time, or just things don't vibe with your nervous system, whatever. Like, we can't be perfect. Now other memories that I have would be even from my mom, and she is somebody who's more of the avoidant, which like doesn't help somebody who's like already naturally anxious. And so I remember times where in my teens, and this is actually this happened a lot when my dad passed away, because this is like the transition, I was like 16, 17, 18, like these first things that you have to do, going to college for the first time, doing your doctor's appointments for the first time, and calling these places and going here and this, that, everything for the first time, energy, right? And so like I was already not really primed to have a lot of confidence within myself. I didn't get a lot of support in those ways. And my mom was going through her own issues, but also life was stressful. When you don't come from a lot, you don't get sometimes that like nurturing, loving support and all the ways in which you will feel safe, even if things don't work out, right? Like a lot of the times when I was worrying about money, it was because we didn't have any money and no safety net. So yeah, no wonder I was afraid of things or things working out, because I'm like, damn, like what are we going to do if not, Now there's this one distinct time, and the reason why I'm bringing it up is because it does still track in my nervous system, and I can see that when I am fearful of things, even though it's such a small little example. So we would go to convenience stores a lot, mainly because she would stop there and get smokes, but also like I would want to go get candy or something like that, like whatever. So I'd always want to go. And for the most part, like she would go in for me because she'd be getting something. But on the times where she wouldn't be, she'd be like, okay, well, if you want something, you need to go in and get it yourself. And it's crazy to even think about that, because like, right, obviously now my ripe age at 29, it's a no-brainer to go and do something like just go into the store alone. But there is a point in your life where you once didn't really do that alone, and now you have to do that. And so I remember like being in the car, and it was the time where she started realizing like, hey, you need to go in and do it yourself. Like you can go do it, which this is not a shade on my mom, because she was like, this girl's ready to go and do these things alone. Like you need to go into the grocery store and go do it alone. You can go do these things alone. But when she would tell me to do those things, I remember just feeling so much anxiety, and I'd be like, no, I don't want to. Can you please come in with me? Can you please come in with me? And it's just like anxious, rushing energy. And again, I'm not saying that she did this wrong, but the experience that I felt, not only was I just not feeling ready and not feeling confident within myself, but also the response that she would have was very like dismissive and very like, I don't care, just go do it, and like push me to do it. Or, I mean, she wouldn't like push me to do it, because then it's like we don't go. But the whole experience was very chaotic. It was very like, she wasn't really also able to sit with those feelings and be there with me, which is so understandable. Like I'm sure it's so overwhelming to be a parent and like to have to always do that stuff, because realistically we have to do that with ourselves now, which we're going to talk about. But all of that anxiety and that feeling of like rushing, it will come with you on times where you'll be, even you're in your 20s or you're 25 and you have to do this thing, and then you are realizing like, oh my gosh, I have this anxiety again, or I have this like feeling of rushing energy, and then you don't want to do it. And it's really just to see how some of your past memories, some of the experiences that you either like didn't have nurtured or it just wasn't the right fit or whatever, that will come with you. And it's no wonder that you don't really feel confident within yourself to go do things alone, or it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel safe. Like it didn't feel safe for me to go into the store and do these things alone, or to go and dive in the pool. It didn't feel safe. So what really allowed me to step into independence, although rocky, which just take it from me, okay? It's rocky. It's not going to be perfect. Nothing is going to be perfect. Your parents weren't perfect. Your life circumstance wasn't perfect. School systems are not perfect. Life just doesn't set you up perfectly to just like have confidence in doing all these things, right? And no matter how much self-soothing you might do, you will probably feel a little bit of anxiety and stuff, right? But what really helped me be able to be more independent and confident within myself is to see the times that I do have anxiety or I don't want to do that thing because I'm afraid. I kind of address myself from looking at it as like my teenage version of myself or my even inner child version of myself, and be like, oh, okay, I see why I'm feeling like this. It's because, maybe I didn't have that healthy transition. But what do I actually need in this moment? Instead of just pushing past that resistance and like pushing myself to do these things, not that I don't challenge myself to do these things, right? And tell myself, no, you can just stay home because you have anxiety from your childhood and you just don't need to do it. It's not about that. But it's to kind of give myself what my parents couldn't give me or life didn't give me, and really to come inwards and be like, okay, Alicia, you're really unique. You have a certain type of personality. You're a little bit introverted, or maybe you're extrovert, whatever it is, right? It's just to see who you are as a human being and be like, okay, what do you need to hear? And how do you need to move through this new experience so that you can do it, so that you can expand and be this independent person? And it is so unique, right? So like, I can't tell you exactly what you will need to hear or how long it will take for you to be able to get into doing something that's like independent, right? But what it really comes down to is coming back to self and being like, okay, in the moment that I'm feeling triggered and anxiety ridden or whatever, how can I be with myself right now and get curious, right? Why am I afraid? What am I afraid of? And what do I need to hear? And okay, there's so many examples I can give you, but for me, I don't typically have these issues really anymore because I've worked through so many of them. But let's say I was going to an event for the first time and I was feeling a little bit of anxiety. For the most part, I really work on the self-talk that I have, because sometimes I will tell myself like, oh, there's going to be people there that I just maybe won't like, or what if people are judging me, or what if it's not exactly how I envisioned it. And so it's really sitting here and being like, okay, well, what do I need to tell myself in this moment so that I can feel a little bit better about going into this situation? Another thing that I like to do when I'm walking into environments that are very overwhelming and chaotic, because for the most part, like I can go to an event, I can do it by myself or whatever, but it's the overwhelming amount of nervous systems and chaos. And I found that when I go into a new environment, instead of just walking straight into it and like not checking in with myself and my nervous system, I like to literally slow things down and like take a few deep breaths. And I like to scan the room. I like to give myself an option of where I actually would like to go stand, or what station that I want to go to, instead of just like walking head in and just being a chaotic mess. And that just really involves more mindfulness, right? Of just slowing down and being like, okay, let me scan the room. Let me see who is here. Do I want to go get a drink right now? Do I see anyone that I know? Do I need to kind of like give myself some affirmations? Do I need to go to the washroom first? Is that going to make me feel a little bit better about the situation? Do I need to go and take a few deep breaths? Like there's so many things that you're going to uniquely need, but it's really about you kind of reparenting yourself in that moment and being like, okay, what do I need to feel a little bit more safe moving into something that is nerve-wracking? And even if it is something like you having to go to the doctors for the first time alone, or you have to make this call that's kind of nerve-wracking, sometimes it's really about being like, okay, I'm scared right now. I don't know the outcome of this. This is a little bit nerve-wracking and uncomfortable, but can I be brave right now? Can I hold my inner child's hand or my teenage self's hand and be like, okay, this is a little bit like new for me, but we're going to do it together. And it's okay that I'm feeling a little bit nervous. And I think back to when I was diving in the pool. Even if I had a healthier transition into diving into the pool, I would have still felt this uncomfortable feeling of diving in the pool for the first time. But having, like, let's say my mom be there and be like, we're going to do this together, or I'm going to jump in to the pool with you, or I'm going to be down here while you jump. Those type of things, like, you have to really do that with yourself in those moments, or simply no longer rushing yourself in the process, right? I feel like sometimes we are not ready to do something for the first time alone. And we will tell ourselves, whoa, I have to learn how to do it alone. So I'm going to like start going on solo dates alone, and I'm going to go to the bar alone, or I'm going to, whatever it is, right? And maybe you're not ready for that. Maybe your nervous system's not ready for that. So maybe it's about going to the grocery store alone, or, doing something for the first time alone, but maybe you're calling your friend, but you're still technically doing it alone. Like, there's ways that you can kind of take baby steps of doing these things, but it really comes back to you coming back to yourself and checking in and being like, what do I need to hear? How do I need to do this? How much time do I need to give myself? And it's okay to give yourself time to be independent and do things alone. Now, I want to talk about solitude, because solitude is really about enjoying your own company. And I think a really big reason why a lot of us, and like me included, I'm putting myself in this category, although I really enjoy my solitude now, but I definitely didn't at one point. A main theme that I saw within myself, and I do see this in a lot of people, is living a inauthentic life, aka doing a lot of things that you don't actually want to do, that you don't actually like doing, that you keep saying yes to when it's clearly a no. And I want to talk about how you not living an authentic life does affect you wanting to spend more time with yourself and being in solitude. So I'll give you two more examples. And this example actually just happened, or like I heard about it yesterday. So I was talking to a friend, and she's a very big people pleaser, and that gets her stuck a lot in her life. It really, really does. Like, one of her biggest lessons in life is how to learn how to have more boundaries and say no, because it directly affects her quality of life, her relationships, the people that come into her life. And there was a situation where she was basically just dancing around the fact that she didn't want to do this thing that somebody was asking her to do, but she felt bad about it. She didn't really say no. And her not saying no ended up being her getting into a situation where she had to go do something with this person that just really she just didn't want to do it. So obviously that created a really crappy experience for that day, but it also made her day all discombobulated because she wasn't able to do the things that she really wanted to do during her day. And so when she got back home, she had to deal with the consequences of having a half-wasted day, and it wasn't really productive for her. And so she didn't really enjoy her time alone when she was alone, because she was left with the consequences of realistically her own actions, which is no wonder sometimes you don't enjoy your own solitude when you create a space where it's just not fun. And it's not fun because you have to deal with those consequences of you stripping your time and your productivity or your routines away. You don't have time to do that. Now, another thing is, I used to do this a lot. I would always say yes to going out and partying, way more than I actually really wanted to. There was a fraction of me that maybe wanted to in college, and drinking with friends and girlfriends. I'm not saying that that is not something I ever want to do, but I definitely did that way more and said yes to that way more than I really wanted to. And of course, the next day I would have so much anxiety realistically. And I just had a poor quality of my day. And I started to realize that I didn't enjoy and look forward to being alone on my Sundays or on my Saturdays. But it was really just the result of me continuously saying yes to things that I should have said no to, because of what that left me with, which was anxiety, which was I didn't have any energy to be able to do my health and wellness routines because I was tired. I didn't have any energy, or I was feeling depressed. Now, another thing that I found in my life, And I see this in other people too, as to why you don't even really enjoy your solitude and your peace and being with yourself is there's a lot of things that you might have to be addressing within your own life that you keep running away from. And so it is no wonder that you don't enjoy it. And so I had to get real with myself in my life, and I had to see the things that I was running away from, whether that was running away from my finances and dealing with the spending habits or the debt or the plans that I didn't have in place, or running away from my emotions or my unhealthy relationship with food, or even relationships like outside of me. There was a lot of things that I was running away from. So it's like, yeah, no wonder I didn't look at myself and I was not that person that didn't enjoy their solitude, because realistically, when I came home to myself, it didn't feel good. It didn't feel safe. So it's really to see when you want to be that person whose solitude is sweeter than anything else, it really comes down to regulating yourself, right? Being with yourself on those times that you're afraid, but also being brave enough to address the things that you are running away from, and to stop saying yes to things that do not align to you. Now, this brings me into really cultivating and creating a life that you enjoy and that you don't want to run away from, which is the sweetness of that quote. So the first thing that has really helped me want to be with myself more is having a good self-concept and good self-talk. Because why would you want to be with yourself when you speak to yourself poorly, when you don't have good affirmations that you tell yourself realistically, right? And I think back to the times where when I needed to go out in the world, or when I do need to go out into the world, I'm going to be feeling a little bit more confident within myself if I have self-talk from myself, or even from somebody else saying, you can do it. You know how to do it. This is how you do it. We're going to move through this. So this is what you should be having within your own life, in your own mind. And so having a daily practice, I always am journaling. I'm always speaking to myself in a way that is kind, that is validating, that pours belief back into myself. So if you have been finding that you aren't at peace with your own life, I would highly suggest taking a deep look at what are you telling yourself on a daily basis, and do you even have a practice of speaking to yourself kindly? Because a lot of people don't, and that's why I always say, like, having a daily practice, a journal practice, waking up every morning and getting used to pouring back into yourself, speaking to yourself highly, speaking about yourself highly, pointing out how beautiful you are, how amazing you are, all of the accomplishments that you have achieved, or all the things that you are continuously working on, listing out the qualities that you carry as a unique human being, and saying, this is me. This is great. I'm amazing. Look at all the things that I've accomplished. Look at all the things that I am going to accomplish. Look at all of the things that I have been through in my life. Pour into yourself. That is the most important thing you should be doing, because again, this also translates into you going out into the world and feeling like you can do things alone. Now, another thing that has always helped me be at peace with my life is to have a plan and goals and something that I'm either working on or something that I'm anchoring myself in, right? And I feel like a lot of people talk about this, like have interests and hobbies and passions or a purpose. Now, this is something that takes work sometimes. So it's not something that you can just like snap your fingers and like, oh, I know my purpose and goals and stuff. But I do see how it would be easy for you to continuously run away from yourself if you don't really have a plan for your life. You don't have some goals put in place. You don't have a routine or a structure, and quite frankly, things to do. And this could look like you simply just having a job, or you studying. You're in school right now. Those things really do help you anchor back into your life. And I know sometimes maybe you won't like your job, or that's not going to be the thing that makes you feel like at peace with your life. And that's fine, right? Even school, like I understand that can be dreadful, or if you're not where you want to be yet, but having some sense of you going somewhere in life, you having some plans in place, even when it comes to addressing some of the things that you might be running away from, even though it could be scary. I think that like when I actually started to take control over my finances and what I really wanted to do with my life when it came to my career, that gave me a sense of purpose and motivation and independence, being like, you know what? Like I have this plan in place and I'm doing these things. I might not have the dream job yet. I might not not have the dream finances yet. I still might be in debt. I still have a lot of things to work on, but you know what? At least I'm addressing these things. At least I have a plan. At least it's clear in my mind. Those things really do help you feel more independent. It makes you feel like, you know what? I got me. My life, it's good here. I'm solid. This is the plan. This is how we're moving forward. And I don't need to say yes to a bunch of things over here because I have something that I'm focused on. I have a vision for my life. Another thing that is really important for me, at least, is to have a routine. And having a routine is going to be so unique to everyone, right? Whether it's like fitness, health, there's so many different types of routines that you can have. But again, when you have things to do in your life, like waking up at a certain time because you have a morning routine, or you have a goal at the gym, or you are working on your gut health right now, or you have a self-care routine, those things make you feel more at peace with your life because you are showing up, you have something to do, you don't really have time to be leaving yourself and to be letting all these people, places, and things distract you because you have something to do. You have something to wake up to. You are filling your own cup. But also, these things do build confidence within yourself. And it's really important when it comes to feeling independent, when it comes to feeling like you can do things in your life, when it comes to being authentically you and saying no to things that do not serve you, you're gonna need to have confidence within yourself. And how you have confidence within yourself is you having a life where you got things to do and where these things in your life that you are doing are pouring back into yourself. And when you wake up every day and you have a routine and you're speaking to yourself kindly and you're hitting some goals and you have a plan and it doesn't have to be perfect, you're gonna have confidence in yourself. You taking action will lead to confidence. Now, outside of having a plan and having daily routines, it really is important that you give yourself choice and exploration and this sense of being able to kind of romanticize your life, because we can have goals and routines and all of these things, but if you start to get into this energy of you got to do these things so hard, so strict, discipline, there will be a sense of you still wanting to run away from yourself because you're not creating a life where it is fun. There's flow. You're romanticizing your life a little bit. You're really exploring your interests and your passions and your hobbies. So this is something that I've been really exploring in my life is, understanding that I have a flavor of life. Yes, I have my routines and my goals, but how do I want to experience my life? How do I want to romanticize my wellness and my health? What exactly lights me up? Where do I want to spend my time when it comes to, let's say, okay, I want to get into self-development or I want to read books. What type of books? What type of topics? What type of meals do I want to make for myself? Yes, we should be making our meals for ourselves. Yes, we should be working on our fitness, but what type of workouts, what type of fitness? I like to go for walk. Or even when it comes to socializing and having plans and things to look forward to, what things do you actually want to do in your life, right? This comes back to being an authentic version of you. Do you like to travel? Do you like to go to concerts? Do you like going clubbing? Do you like to spend time with your friends in a more intimate setting when it comes to girls' nights? Whatever it is, there's so many ways in which you can spend your time. How do you want to do it? And it's important that you really take that time to explore who you are and what you want, because again, you're going to stop running away from yourself so much when you create a life where, yeah, my social life is this. It's the concerts, it's the traveling, or it's the clubs if you like it, let yourself live if that's what you want to do. For me personally, I like to go to concerts. And so not only am I going to not want to feel like I'm running away from my life, but I'm also going to be solid in my routines, in my day-to-day, and not feel the urge to go do a bunch of other things because I have something to look forward to that is perfectly aligned to what I want, which is, let's say, going to a concert or a festival versus every weekend I'm just saying yes to things that I don't want to be saying yes to. Now, I want to quickly point out a few other things that might be helpful for you when you are on this journey of being more independent. Sometimes doing things alone is just better. It's better because, of course, it will build confidence within yourself so that you can explore life to the fullest in a way, but you can become a lot more productive and focused when you stop being dependent on other people and or things that distract you, right? And I think about how I have become so successful in my life. A lot of that has to do with the fact that I have built this solid foundation within myself that I don't let distractions come into my life, and I don't feel the need to do everything with other people. And that has allowed me to be productive in my life when it comes to work, right? And I can even think about this when it comes to like going to the gym or like going to coffee shops. On one hand, community is great. This is not the conversation though, okay? But community is great. Doing things not alone is amazing and it's beautiful. And that's a lesson that I've had to learn too. But that again is a different conversation. But when you are wanting to be productive and get a lot of things done, sometimes doing it with people and having distractions, you're not going to get so much work done. When it's time to go study, sometimes it's better for you to go to the library and just go and bang it out. Go bang it out, put some music and headphones in, and go do your studying for 2 to 3 hours instead of having like 100 friends come and talk to you, and then you stop and you go and you stop and you go. Or you go to a coffee shop and, oh, let's make it romanticizing, let's go with a friend and this, that, but then you're talking, yapping, and it's a gossip session. You don't get so much work done, do you? Or when you're going to the gym. Personally, for me, I really don't like going to the gym with other people. Like I really would rather just get in and get out. You know, that gets me results quicker. I can get on a routine faster. I don't really need to have somebody there with me. Now, again, if you need that and that's the thing that keeps you going, perfect. But it is to see how sometimes doing things alone is better. Also, when it comes to going out into the world, sometimes doing things alone will allow you to be able to actually say yes to the things that you want to, versus if you're going with a bunch of other people. It's a bunch of group think. It's a bunch of them deciding things. And then all of a sudden you're doing a bunch of different events, or you're doing a bunch of different social activities where it's like, you didn't really even want to do this. That's not even what you really wanted to do. Or I even think about this when it comes to your confidence. You deciding that a photo looks good instead of you asking 100,000 people, or you deciding that an outfit looks good without you asking 100,000 people, will do you so much wonders, and it will get you through life quicker. It just will. It just literally will. And sometimes you really need to stop. You really need to stop asking people 100 different things. And the reason why it's important is because at the end of the day, everyone has their own opinion. Okay. And that also doesn't help you feel confidence within yourself and independent when you are constantly allowing everyone else to make the decision for you. It just will not happen. And when you become somebody who decides that you look good enough, that this photo is good enough, that this piece of work is good enough, that I am good enough, you will get places quicker. I promise you that you will get places quicker. Look at how much time you are wasting. And I know this is a silly example, but think about the time that you sit there and you're going back and forth, sending your friends 100,000 photos. Which one looks good? Da, 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 da. Or you could have just posted it. Could have been up on Instagram already. You could have made that decision already. You could have done the thing already. You could have posted the video already, but instead you're sending it to 100,000 people. Should I change this? How do I do this? Da, 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 da. You could have got in there quicker. So sometimes it is really important to remind yourself of how you doing things alone will benefit you in the long run, which you need to be benefited. Like you do need to see how you benefit from doing certain things alone. And I even think about, again, like going to the doctors alone, or going into the store alone, or going to get groceries alone. Like you have option. The world is your freaking oyster if you think about it like that, right? You don't have to look at it as such a scary thing. And over time, your life becomes full because you're being authentic. Your life becomes more peaceful and satisfying and sweet, that you start moving through life being like, that doesn't feel good. This person's presenting something that's half-ass. I don't want that. You know why? Because it feels better over here. I feel more safe with myself. I feel more at peace. I enjoy what I'm doing in my day-to-day life, that I don't need your half-ass. I don't need you to dysregulate my nervous system. I don't need these half-ass experiences anymore. And when you move through life like that, guess what? You get the things that you are craving. You crave the healthy relationship. You crave that person that treats you exactly the way you know deep down that you deserve. You crave more abundance. You crave higher quality experiences. But you're not going to get all those things when you are constantly being inauthentic, when you aren't willing to be with yourself. Now, this takes time. This takes you taking responsibility of your life and being like, okay, you know what? There's things I didn't get in childhood. There's experiences that I had that didn't maybe prime me right now. It is what it is. It really is what it is. I am going to become my own best friend. I'm going to show up for myself, and I'm going to seek out what makes me feel good more and more. And I'm going to create a life that I love. And I don't care how long it's going to take. And I don't care if it's going to be difficult at sometimes, because it will, because life is life. But I would rather do that than to continue to live a life where it is inauthentic, where it's anxiety ridden, where it's me second guessing and self doubting myself. And realistically, nobody is going to do it for you, right? Like, people can help you. And this is another thing, you could obviously seek support and love from other people. I go to therapy. I have great friends in my life that I lean on. But at the end of the day, it's still me going to do those things. It's still me investing in myself. It's still me asking for help. It's going to start with you. You have to become the change. So with that being said, I hope this episode helped. You guys are doing amazing. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.